Hey, everybody, it's Ted. And this is the Deja Vu edition because a couple of years ago, Bob and I were doing weekly calls like this, but LinkedIn Live didn't even exist yet. But
Yeah, no, nothing like that. What was the name of that? I'm drawing a blank on what that app was. That or it wasn't an app. It was actually browser. But what was it called?
I don't remember either. It
I
was like,
don't remember either. But it's like everybody was in bubbles, and the people who talked grew bigger, and it kind of pulsated when you were talking and everything. And
right.
yeah. We had a lot of fun with that. And I actually tried searching for it, but I couldn't even think of the keywords to even consider putting it into Google, and I
Everything
never did.
comes and goes so fast these
I
days.
know. I
It's
know. It's amazing how that
but not
works.
LinkedIn. It's been around forever.
No, it's been around since May of 2003.
Yeah. So, how did you get started on LinkedIn? I'd love to hear your story.
I actually got this is a story that I tell a lot, but Um, I got on in December of 2003. And back in the day, you could tell from your profile URL what member number you were.
Right.
And I was member number, and I've got it over here. So I'm looking over here 74,899. So I was the 74,899th person to join LinkedIn, and they have what, like 750, 760 million
I think they
or
passed 800 million. One of their things said 800 million. I just saw today.
wow. Wow. Yeah, so I've basically been on it since the beginning. And so when it first started, it was a combination of posting your resume and what I call baseball card collecting. So you just tried to get as many connections as possible, just for the ego thing to going on there. And then I guess fast forward to like 2007, 2008, I was actually with a startup at the time that was developing a kind of a LinkedIn platform, but with like additional features for commercial and corporate real estate. So it was going to be like a hub where people could like do listings, submit RFPs for properties that they wanted to sell, and just all sorts of different tools and things like that. So part of that was part of my job was for me to actually teach what just social media in general was all about, and how to start securing business and networking and conversations and things like that directly from social media. So just to show you how far back that was, the two main things that I taught at the time was LinkedIn and, believe it or not, Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah, and obviously it was like really rudimentary compared to all of the things that are happening with LinkedIn today. But I was kind of sort of teaching social selling before social selling was a thing, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
doing Web 2.0 before it was even social media.
Yeah. So yeah. Web 3.0 is the big thing now, and that's another conversation for another time.
Oh
But
my god, yeah.
yeah, and then oh god, and and then Brent and I started working together in 2014, and then we both went off to a company called People Links for a while that did social selling, but it actually attached a really good technology platform for it. That got sold. We kind of went our separate ways for a little bit, but then we came back together, and we've been basically together doing damage on LinkedIn and in social selling since then.
That's awesome. And I just talked to Vivica von Rosen a few minutes ago. She says
Oh
hello.
wow, how's she doing?
Great. Really
Good,
good. Yeah.
good. Glad to hear that. That's great.
Yeah. So let's talk about your LinkedIn profiles. I know they've evolved over the years.
They have evolved considerably over the
I love your
years. So
baseball card analogy. That's actually great. I was always collecting those, but instead of getting a
yeah,
bunch of cards, I'd rather have a couple of good ones now. I don't know about you.
right, yeah. So thankfully that philosophy has changed somewhat over the years, although you still do see people trying to, at least when they get started. I think that people have that mentality to get to that first 500 at least. So then that 500 plus shows up, and they probably slack off a little from there. But LinkedIn started out as more of a job seeking platform, and that's still what it's used for by and far. So most people do have their profiles as a resume, which is fine. And a lot of people still use it for career advancement, like I said. But the problem with that when it comes to sales, and especially social selling, is there are a couple things. One, it's very me focused, me meaning the person who's is has that profile, which is obvious because it's a resume, and that's what you're supposed to do, is talk about
Yeah.
yourself. Um, the other thing is, um, the changes include, like, of besides the about section, there's now the featured section, and you can do more with the experience section, and they've added skills and things like that over time. So all of the offerings within the profile itself have broadened considerably, and all of these things can be used for sales and social selling. So one of the things that we like to talk about is, making over your profile from a resume to a resource,
From
and from
it's
a
about me to it's about you.
exactly. So you are speaking to the person who is visiting your profile, and excuse me, you're not only telling them what you do, because obviously that's part of it, but we like to think of it from changing from a resume to a resource, so that when people come to your profile, they can view it as a resource about whatever it is that they want to do. So it's actually important for the salesperson who has that profile to really know who they want to attract to the profile. So that generally involves an industry and our titles within a company, so that you're speaking to that group of people specifically. So you're narrowing it down from everyone to this group of people. And then you construct your profile in a way that really teaches them and engages them, and with the ultimate goal of them to wanting to either connect with you, or to even or to reach out to you directly, because we encourage putting contact information directly on to the profile. So, and it's happened to me before. I've gotten emails directly from my profile from people who are interested, because I have positioned my profile in that way, essentially.
Right. It's kind of like a Yellow Pages ad in a way.
A little bit, and it's actually interesting that you mentioned Yellow Pages ads, because part of you can kind of think of part of the profile, which is basically your photo and your headline, as almost advertising for you when you participate in LinkedIn, whether it's posting to a group, which doesn't happen a lot anymore, but it still kind of happens. But especially in the timeline, when you post things yourself, or you make a comment on other people's posts that then reach other people. So then, as they're scrolling through, they see you have a good professional photo, and you should have a photo on your profile that's professional looking, as well as a well constructed headline that at least at the very beginning talks about how you help people and who you help people, so they'll be tempted to click through. Once they click through, then the resource process
It's
starts.
free advertising, and LinkedIn
It
puts you in
is.
front of thousands of people every day. Like, you accept connections, they
Absolutely.
say you may also want to connect with these people.
Yep. Yeah, your face and your headline can potentially appear in all different places within LinkedIn. So those two elements especially, and and the banner appears sometimes too, but sometimes it's so shrunken down you can't really see what's going on there. The banner becomes more important when they come through to the profile, because that's valuable branding real estate, and you should always have something up there, even if it's just your company logo. Always use as much branding real estate as you can, and LinkedIn provides that with the banner as well. And there's all different things that you can do with the banners. I've seen some really creative stuff out there too.
There's no
But just
excuse for a
think of it
bad
as real.
photo anymore, right? With a good
Yeah,
camera.
no more bad photos,
You got
no
those ones of
more.
people pictures like that
Yeah, like that, or
cropped
like
out.
someone's hand on your shoulder, or yeah, you're reaching out to them like that as well. So yeah, none of that works anymore, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's taken in a photo studio and everything else. The most important thing I think is to represent yourself in the photo like how you would appear in an in-person meeting. So if that's a suit and tie, then wear a suit and tie. But if it's like a quarter zip with a shirt underneath it, that's fine. You know, if for some reason you wear t-shirts all the time, that's fine too. But always represent yourself as what you look like in a meeting, essentially. And then just take it against a neutral background. Just make sure there's no weird shadows or anything like that.
Yeah.
And or you can go to a studio too, however you want to do it. But it's professional looking is the main thing there, in my opinion.
That's a good point. One time I spoke at a conference, there was 750 home inspectors.
Oh,
So for them to
yeah.
be in a suit, it wouldn't be appropriate. But the logo
A,
shirt, that's
a
appropriate.
logo shirt would work very well in that case. Yeah, represent yourself how you look doing business every day.
Yeah. Simple stuff.
Yep.
So I noticed a lot of people, like LinkedIn said it recently, 65% of people are mobile only now on the mobile app.
Yeah. Yeah, mobile is
And
getting to be really
we just
popular.
skim with our heads buried.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I'm in front of my desk most of the time, I mostly work off a desktop, but there are times when I'm using mobile to do what I do on the desktop. And LinkedIn, I think, has done a pretty good job in replicating what you can do on the desktop over to what you do on the mobile. There are some things that are kind of wacky, but most everything does work like how you'd expect it if you know how to use LinkedIn on the desktop.
Right. So people ask me about the featured section all the time. So what should we
Yeah.
put there?
So what I like to put in there ideally is educational and informational material. So like if there are one pagers that a company have that aren't too salesy, because you're really looking to educate there more than you are to really sell. So if there are like white papers or case studies or videos that are really meant to teach someone, because one of the goals is that you don't want to feel like the person who is visiting your profile feels like that they're being sold to. You are really providing resources. So in the featured section, try to get as visual stuff as possible in there, whether it's a document or, any type of document or especially a video, because as you'll notice as you're scrolling down someone's profile, that featured section really pops out at you. We call that a scroll stopper. So it's really important to have that really good material in there that is truly educational so that they'll learn something from it. And in the process, as they're learning from it, two things happen. One, you get to be more of an expert or a thought leader in that field in the mind of the person who's visiting your profile. And then the other thing is as you're teaching them, hopefully you can get them to start thinking a little differently about whatever problem it is that they're having when they visit your profile. Because when they start thinking a little differently, then they're more receptive to new ideas that you could potentially provide them in a discovery or an insights call down the line as well.
Right. Yeah, people are always doing their own research now. And
Yep.
my wife was a nurse practitioner for years and she's just retired. But people would come
Mhm.
in with their own diagnosis because they searched on the
Oh, yeah.
internet.
And the internet is always correct. But in this case, your profile is always correct
Or
because
those TV
it's
commercials, right?
I tease my doctor all the time about that. I'll come in and I'll say, hey, the TV told me I'm supposed to ask you about, and then it's like some obscure thing that has nothing to do with me, and he
Right.
laughs and everything else. But yeah, so when you do put that in there, by educating them and by getting them to think differently, they're more apt to either reach out to you directly, or if if you see in the who's viewed your profile section of LinkedIn that someone visited your profile and you want to have a conversation with them, it's much easier to reach out to you, to them and ask for a connection, because you put a note with the connection saying something like, I noticed you visited my profile. Would like to connect with you and discuss, and then whatever it is at that point. Essentially,
Right.
there are different ways to do it, but people are visiting the profile for a reason. Why not find out why?
Right. So how much what you put in your about section?
The about section, we structure that in a pretty specific way. So what we do is for that top, like, short paragraph, we refer to that as a call to read, and that's basically because when you have a long about section, it will only show like the first two lines of your first paragraph, and then it'll have see more on there. You always want to get people to click see more. So in the call to read, that should, like, immediately address the problems that you anticipate that the people who are coming to your profile have. So that's why it's really important for you to know those problems. To know those problems, you have to know your audience. To know your audience, you have to really think about the industries that you serve and the level that they're at within their companies and things like that, essentially, to really construct that paragraph in an authentic way, yet in a way that gets them to click. And then at that point, you build out a little bit more about the problems that they may be facing. So uh, I am so overwhelmed right now with examples. I can't think of one specifically, but everybody who comes to your profile has a problem, or hopefully they have a problem that they're looking to solve, and they're looking to you to potentially solve that. This is the area where you essentially say, "Hey, I feel your pain," to coin a way overused phrase, but it's really true here. Then the next section, you offer either what we call value agnostic insights, or you can ask questions about what it is that they're experiencing. So what we mean by either one of those is really provide insights or ask questions of them that they could either answer or just gets them thinking, but do it in a way that you're not pushing your product. So that's where the value agnostic part comes in. So if you're going to offer like a couple of really short tips, they should be so that they don't have to contact you to fulfill those tips. They should be able to go out on their own and actually do what is in there.
Right.
Now, most people are not going to know, or they're going to keep reading on. The next section has to do, this is where you can start talking about yourself and your company and how it helps solve the problems that you just listed up in all the sections above it. Then you have a call to action paragraph that says, if you're interested in X, Y, or Z, let's talk. Whether or not we do business together, I'm sure our call will be full of insights that can help your business. And then name or email. If you have a like Calendly style of a calendar link, you can provide that there. And your phone number. If you only have a mobile, you may not want to put your phone number in there, but if you have like an office phone that rings through the voicemail or something like that, go ahead and put that in there too. That's the about section.
Yeah. The biggest mistake I see is people repeat what's in their experience section. I went to this
Yep.
school. I've worked in this industry for 25 years.
Yep. Yeah. And that's not necessarily that's so let me back up a little bit. When I am going through and doing and making over people's profiles, this happens probably about 50% of the time. I look in their about section and I'm thinking, this is great for the experience section.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
so half the time I end up moving it down there. We work with it a little bit and everything else, but it actually works well there. But there's a better place for it than in the about section, because they still want to discover what it is you do and how it is you can help them as high up as possible. So before they really have to start scrolling.
So how do you feel about third person versus first person when people So and so.
First person in the experience section when you are talking about yourself. So the way that we do the experience section is that the very top one has your title, and then that's where you can start telling your story, and whether it's your passions, why you do what you do, why you love the business, that type of thing. All that stuff can go in there and be very effective, because that's where you're starting to relate about yourself a little bit more. And I don't know about everyone out there, but when I want to deal with someone, I want someone who is passionate about what they do. That's where you can start building that area.
Yeah.
So then, about a couple of years ago, LinkedIn brought out a new feature that lets people track their progression within a company.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we kind of, we call it hack, hijack, whatever it is. It's not really hacking. You're not doing any code or anything like that. But we do that to either build out specific services that the company offers so that you can highlight those underneath that top section. Or if you help specific industries, you list the industries down there, and then in the descriptions, describe more about how you help those industries. So that not only helps from a presentation standpoint, it also helps with SEO, because each of those experience subsections get hit on for higher for higher SEO than just leaving it at just one position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good trick I learned years ago.
Yep. Yeah, and if anyone wants to see any of that in action, just go ahead and visit my profile. It's very easy to find. It's Bob Woods. And if you want to connect with me, feel free to click on the connect button. Just send me a note saying that you heard me on Ted's show today, so that I know where it's coming from, and I know that it's not an annoying spam bot or anything like that. I
That's a
would
good
definitely
point. There's
appreciate
probably
that.
more than one Bob Woods on LinkedIn.
There are a million, probably.
So how do you differentiate yourself if people are just searching for Bob Woods? How do you stand out?
Yeah, so that I think comes more as well, number one, because of a photo, because if they've seen me before, they'll just look for my photo. If they haven't seen me, but they know what I do, they'll be able to tell from the beginning part of my headline, because it's constructed in such a way that they should know that it's me based on that. And then it'll also have social sales link in there too. So
Yeah.
so yeah, but that is a really good question. And that's another reason why having the photo and having your headline constructed in that, people looking for me way, rather than me telling people what it is I do way. And by the way, if you're a salesperson, if you do nothing else, never put down account executive at XXYY, because people are not going to click through, because they don't want to deal with salespeople, because you are branding yourself as a salesperson and not an expert in what it is you do, who also happens to be a salesperson.
Right. And a lot of people put like extra things in their name fields too, which makes it even harder to find you.
Yeah, that makes it harder because, number one, depending on what you put in there, you could be violating LinkedIn's user agreement, and you could technically be shut down because of that. I don't know if I've ever heard of anyone who's been shut down because of that, but it can happen. And then the second thing is, if you like put your first and last name in the first name area, and then you put like your title or whatever it is you want to put in there in the last name area, it messes with the with the search algorithm in both LinkedIn and Google.
Bob, this has been great. We could talk for days. We're gonna have to do
We
this again for sure.
we have before, believe me.
So how do they get in touch with you? What's your website?
Website is socialsaleslink.com. Socialsaleslink.com. We have a lot of offerings for like the sales public, I guess you could say, at large, including group coaching, where we're going to be launching a new video based 12-week LinkedIn accelerator course. And we also serve a lot of companies and train sales teams and entire companies and things like that too.
Cool. Bob, it's been great catching up with you. Definitely.
Yeah, same here, Ted. It's always so much fun being on air with you. We had a great time back when it was Social Selling Wednesdays, and we were on that platform that we can't think of the name of right now.
Yeah, whatever that platform is. Well, thanks again, Bob. This has been awesome.
Sure, you're welcome, Ted. Yeah. This has been great. Loved it.